Okay, good evening. I'll call the meeting to order, and I'll call for the adoption of the agenda of the 68th meeting.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Dyson Edmonds, seconded by Councillor Cran. All in favor? Aye. Carried, unanimous. A delegation, I understand we have one delegation.
My apologies, Your Worship. We do have one delegate. Ms. Alexandra Cabot is coming to speak on 10 Montagnes.
Ready? We have a delegation, Alex, and we're, yes, I'll ask Councillor Beatty to read the policy regarding delegations.
Thank you. Policy statement: in accordance creating a friendly and approachable environment for delegates to meet with the council, it is recommended that the public inhabit Valley-Goose Bay, 1, notify the town manager or his designate of their intention at least 30 minutes before the meeting, providing their name, contact information, and make it known of the issue that they wish to convey so that the town manager may present it to the attention of the mayor and council members before the council meeting begins. The mayor and council has the right to limit the number of delegates to presentation before each council meeting. 2, at the time of notification, the delegates given 10 minutes maximum to discuss their concerns or issues. After the presentation, the mayor and council members may ask questions or make comments on the information presented. 3, in consideration for the length of council meeting, delegates may wish to bring forth their issues and concerns in a written request that includes the subject of the presentation, name, contact information for either the mayor and council member or town manager to respond by letter. 12, council encourages the public to meet with the mayor and council members to bring their concerns or issues, while at the same time we ask that you be respectful when presenting your issues or concerns in a friendly tone and environment to converse on any of the town's topic of discussion or concern.
Thank you, Councillor Beatty, and Alex, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I'd like to thank you for letting me speak this evening. My name is Alex Cabot, and I'm a Fisheries, Wildlife, and Forestry Officer by trade. I'm a lifelong resident of the town, specifically to the Lower Valley. My concern this evening is in regards to the ongoing issues between the town, myself, my spouse, and my property located at 10 Montagnes Road. We purchased the property in late October of 2019 solely for the purpose of its location. The issue in question is the mound of overburden which was placed not only on my property but on the 15-meter buffer by residing neighbors. This can be viewed by satellite images. Nearly each and every property on the riverbank, both Montagnes and Hamilton River Road, have a clear view of the water. However, I have a massive obstruction in my view. 3/4 of the property have a flat, clear, natural view, and the other quarter has an obstructing mound. There are over 50 homes on the riverbank which have their yards landscaped to the edge of the river. Some even have floating wharves, which is what I'm trying to achieve with my property. I've been advised by the town to apply for necessary permits and applications, which I have done. However, the town is not providing me with one piece of required documentation that I must submit to Water Resources. What I'm asking you for is if my proposed wharf is within your land development regulations for the location in question, which it is due to the fact there are multiple floating docks, wharves, and quonsets on the Churchill River. On the 1st of May, in preparation for our yard work, I advised our neighbors our plans and requested for the debris to be removed. 2 weeks later in May, we then again requested for the debris to be removed. On the first week of June, we again requested for the removal of the debris and made several requests during that month. On July 6th, I obtained both a building permit for a fence and a digging permit for grubbing the land of my property from the town. On July 7th, I wrote the town in regards to hazardous debris located on the property, as well as the 15-meter buffer within the Churchill River. Not only was this an eyesore, but a hazard to the environment. Prior to July 7th, the following actions were taken. Neil Parrott surveys came to establish property lines. It was brought to our attention that the debris and an erected fence was not only on my property, but on the 15-meter buffer of the river. I asked the neighbors to remove the fence. 2 weeks' notice was given to the neighbors to remove their items from my property on June 19th. 7 days later, notice was given to the neighbors again on June 26th for their items to be removed from my property, as I had planned for an excavator to come grub off my land, which again had no result. On July 6th, I had neighbors come to my property to line out the property line for the excavator to work within their boundaries. On July 10th, I requested help from the town in regards to a cleanup order. On July 13th, the scheduled excavator arrived to do the proposed work, but the debris was still in the way. The excavator sloped my land to the property and the buffer while making an appropriate slope. On July 14th, the municipal technologist had a request made for the neighbors to remove their debris from my property. On July 21st, the debris was still located on the property and the buffer. I then called the town, and who reassured me that it would be cleaned up by July 28th, no later. On July 29th, the cleanup started. However, there were still items left on my property and the buffer. On July 30th, a written order was given to the residents to clean up their property. On July 30th, I sent a crew of laborers in to aid the cleanup of the debris as it was still on my property. However, the help was not appreciated. We had to ensure that the loader could finish the work that the excavator could not due to the debris being in the way. On July 30th, I received a stop work order from the town in regards to the debris grubbing my land and speculation in clearing the buffer behind my house without an investigation from the town. I would like to know why it took over 30 days for the town to enforce and issue a cleanup order when it only took 8 hours to receive the stop work order. The town is constantly promoting to landowners to landscape their properties, not only to beautify, but to increase the value of their land, which is exactly what we're trying to achieve. On July 31st, I submitted a second request for help, which took 14 days to respond to. In the response, I was told that the junk or debris was removed as of July 24th and was advised by the municipal enforcement officer on said date and was re-verified on July 28th. Which was not the case because the municipal enforcement officer was on leave during that time. The reply also indicated that excavation beyond the property boundary at number 10 Montagnus extended into the buffer zone, which was not the case. I've told them that I sloped my land to the bank, to Crown Lands, and this 15-meter buffer. As for grubbing, I have not grubbed anything on Crown Lands property. I've removed vegetation, such as small willows, grass, which you do not require a permit for as per water resource management. I was told in this response on the 14th that the obstruction view in my yard was due to a previous restoration project. However, I've since been told the project did not include my property, nor was it this far down the riverbank. I've kayaked, walked the riverbank, and there's not one home on that riverbank that has an obstructing view of the river. I've sent photos as well to the council to prove this. As well, if you walk the shores of Birch Island or use the town's waterfront walking trail located on the lower end of Hamilton River Road, you can see this. I invited the town council and Service NL to come view my property. However, over the span of these weeks, there have only been 4 out of 9 people who accepted my invitation to view my property and listen to my concerns. On August 26th, I put an ATIP request in for both my property and my neighbors. It was to my knowledge that town development permits were public knowledge. I did not ask for specific names. I did not ask for the type of development, simply asking for any permits within the vicinity. On September 21st, I received a reply saying that they could not give me this information due to personal privacy of the residents. However, in this package, a permit was in there from a previous owner of 10 Montagnus from 1999. There was no names or type of development blacked out. I could see the name of the resident and the type of the development they were doing. So I'm asking you, why should I be required to post my permits in my window for the general public to see if I cannot access that information from neighboring properties? On or near August 25th, I asked the municipal technologist to I requested a letter in principle for a floating wharf, which, as I stated, I required for the application to the Water Resource Management Division. I was told that this would not be an issue and I would receive the letter within a few days. On September 1st, I then requested a letter again, which I was told was waiting upon approval of upper management before an official approval being sent to me. On August 29th, I erected my fence, which I had a property for, and yes, I do understand that my fence goes past my property line. However, it stops short of my neighbor's fence, which also extends well beyond their property line onto the buffer. My fence was erected by end of day, August 30th. On September 3rd, I received yet again another stop work order. And it did not only mention my fence, but it also mentioned that I've still been clearing the 15-meter buffer located on Crown lands, which is not the case. I have not touched the buffer since July 30th. The town has received yet again another complaint about my property and they issued a stop work order without another investigation. I'm wondering how the town can issue yet again another order without firsthand knowledge. I repeatedly asked for the town's assistance in this matter, and we've been ignored time and time again, or have been told that upper management are dealing with the situation. There are residents in the vicinity that are calling the town and water resources daily with false and inaccurate information, and we are looked upon as criminals. On September 8th, I submitted a formal written request for the approval in principle, which I did not receive my letter. I was told that due to incompliance with a stop work order issued on September 3rd, they would not provide me with the documentation I needed to submit to water resources. The order, which again, to my knowledge, was written without prior investigation. As a young couple who just spent nearly $10,000 on property improvement, application fees, permit fees, we could not afford anymore. We've attempted since the 1st of May to clean up, level, slope, and plant grass in our backyard and have an obstructed view of the river. Instead, 5 months later, we have spent $3,000 on a fence that we didn't want to require to keep our neighbors and their belongings off of our property. We have 10 loads of topsoil that we can't spread and plant grass, and now it's almost October and the mound of overburden left by the neighbors are still in our yard and on the 15-meter buffer. We're a young couple whom we plan to pursue our careers and give back to our community and environment. We plan to raise a family and spend our time in the Happy Valley area. We believe as a young Indigenous couple, we are being completely disregarded, discriminated against, and have hit a roadblock at each stage of our development. Due to our neighboring resident being a town employee, we feel that favoritism is being played a major part in these actions the town has been pursuing. We are kindly asking, yet again, that this issue be resolved and put to rest so that we can enjoy the property we purchased and the peace and quiet that we deserve. Thank you for your time, and we sincerely hope that this issue will be dealt with.
Thank you for your presentation. I will go back again to our staff, but from the town's perspective, all we have to deal with is your piece of property that's registered with the town. What happens with permits for outside of that? There's a process where applications have to be filled in and approved by either Lands and Water or Crown Land, and the town does not have any control over that whatsoever. And however, I will say that the two stop work orders were issued to our town to carry out by two departments of the provincial government.
Can I say one thing? I understand that, and I've told the town council repeatedly that I also understand that. However, there's one piece of documentation that I require from the council. They're refusing to give that to me in regards to this stop work order on September 3rd. I requested this 2 weeks before the stop work order, so I feel that the stop work order is irrelevant to my request. I'm not asking for the town's approval for my wharf. I'm simply asking if it's within your development regulations. It's the job of Water Resources to ask the town for their approval to issue me the license for that.
I'm just wondering what the holdup is, because she's looking for a support letter from the town. And there seems to be some confusion with some of the staff and council around that letter, from what I'm reading anyway.
Do we have anything from any departments instructing the town not to write the letter of approval that the citizen of this town is looking for, is asking the town for?
Your Worship, I will go back and check. I believe the correspondence from the provincial agencies has indicated in infractions or contraventions of their legislation. I haven't seen, to my recollection, anything specifically instructing us not to issue support or letter of support in principle, but I will have the engineering department check that.
So why is, if there's nothing preventing from the town from issuing what she needs when it's not in direct contravention with any work order, why is the town not providing that?
I may not, I'm not 100% sure, but town manager, maybe you can check. Once there's a stop work order put in place on any property, then nothing happens on that property, correct? Until that stop work order is lifted, no matter what the intended.
But that's not her property. It's not.
Well, it's not her land either, so it's Crown land. So we haven't received an application from Crown Lands yet either. It hasn't come to committee.
I think there's some confusion, and Alex can explain it better than anybody here. There seems to be some confusion. It's a letter for water resources to build her wharf. She needs support from the town. Somebody's not understanding what you're looking for. If you want to explain it better again,
Still have to have
Alex.
access to
Okay.
the Crown land though, right? You still have to have access to the Crown land, and access to your wharf.
I can speak for myself, I think I understand what it is, but there's rules and regulations, I think that's up there, that's in place, and there's stop work.
I think you're wrong. I think you're very wrong.
And, I mean, again, as the deputy read, the policy is there that once a stop work order is written, and that comes from a provincial department of government, and not one but two, but, and I do believe that it is, that there's nothing can be done until things are done where the stop work orders are revoked, or they're taken off.
No, explain it again, Alex, obviously.
Okay, so within water resources, regardless of the second stop work order that was issued on September 3rd, because it has nothing to do with my request, my request is that I'm asking you if a proposed floating dock or wharf is within your land development regulations. I'm not asking you for your approval because that is the job of water resources. You will not receive anything from water resources until I get this letter to submit to them so that they can send the approval to the correct organizations.
We would get a referral. We would get a referral.
Yes, you would get a referral. However, you will not get that referral until I can send this required documentation to water resources.
Well, we can't approve it without the referral.
Yes, but you get the, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but you get the referral after I submit the application. The application will not be accepted by Water Resources without this one piece of required documentation. After the piece of documentation is submitted to Water Resources and all their checks are in a row, then they will submit a request to the town, to Crown Lands, to make sure that everything is correct. But I do need this in order for Water Resources to even consider contacting the town for approval.
Yeah. So town manager, you've been in constant discussion, or somebody's been in touch with Water Resource Management Division as well as Department of, or Service and Health on this, in terms of Crown Lands?
I've had some periodic contact with the agency, but the primary contact has been through our engineering department staff. And without having exact dates in hand, I would suggest that has been very regular on an every other day basis, essentially.
So are they apprised of the latest developments in terms of what Ms. Cabot is saying? Like, I don't know. I mean, staff has been dealing with it at that level, and it wasn't an order that came from Crown Lands for the town to issue, because I think we have to, under general rules of application. It is a provincial department, and
my understanding is both agencies are very aware and apprised of, and we, in fact, have been relying, most of our information has come by way of the agencies as well, because it does rest in land areas that they have, I wouldn't say ownership, but they do have responsibility and legislative authority over.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, this has been going on for 3 months, 2-3 months. And would it be beneficial to arrange a meeting with Ms. Cabot as well as representatives from Water Resource Management and Crown Lands as well as the town to discuss this particular issue? Because it involves not just the town anymore. It involves 4 parties, maybe potentially 5. But
Personally, I don't think she needs to sit down there. I mean, maybe with some of the stuff, with the stop
Somebody,
work
yeah,
orders
those-
and all that stuff, but this water resource, I'm sure all you gotta do is pick up the phone and call them and say, she needs a letter stating that this is part of the town regulations or is in the development regulations, and send a letter off.
yeah, I don't think it's within the development regulations. I think it could be a permitted use.
Or whatever it is,
Discretionary,
permitted
I
use
should
within the town and on her property. But it's not that difficult, I don't think, from what I'm reading.
But I mean, all along Hamilton River Road, there's access to all these properties, they have their docks built.
Yeah, but we can't speak to those. They're probably legal non-conforming too, right? They've been there forever,
Well, probably,
you know.
quite possibly, but the request that Water Resources is looking for is not a commitment, it's all in the application.
I know we have done some, like, I think the Mud Lake Road, at the end of Mud Lake Road, for instance, somebody wanted to put a wharf down there a few years ago that we approved. Yeah, but I think there's an issue with Crown Lands too, because in order to access that wharf, you have to utilize Crown Land to get to it.
Yeah.
Right,
but in
so
the
that's why I'm
application-
saying, is there a way that, you know, you can bring Crown
Part of the
Lands?
application process from Water Resources requires a letter from the town. It has nothing to do with the stop work order that's on the property at 10. It's access, it's building the dock, so whether 50 people on Hamilton River Road did it illegally or went through the proper protocols and regulations. Here we have a resident who's trying to go through the proper channels to do it, and we're not assisting, we're preventing them from going through the proper channels when Water Resources is requesting the letter from the town.
Did we receive a letter from Water Resources requesting a letter from the town manager? Did we receive that from Water Resources?
But my question is, why wouldn't we receive that request from Water and Lands? Like, we don't own the land. Water and Lands does the rules and the regulations with the buffers from a riverbank and into a water body. Then Crown Land is there, so like, I mean, you know, as confusing as it may seem, like, we don't own the property. We own the property that's in the survey that's done, that's brought to the town, where the person owns the property. The property beyond that, so much is for Crown Lands, and there's also a section there for lands and waters which they govern.
But the application form from Water Resources, part of the application, and correct me if I'm wrong, Alex, but part of the application process from Water Resources asks for a letter from the town.
Saying that it's permitted use, that it's permitted?
It says, like, I'm asking you if a proposed wharf or a floating dock is within the land development regulations. That's all that it's asking. That I'm not, like, because it's Water Resources' job after I submit my application to ask the town for their approval. So I'm not asking for approval, I'm just asking if it's within the land development regulations. And on the application, which I've sent to the town and to the municipal technologist, highlighted, on the front page it says, we require municipal approval that says your proposed wharf is within the land development regulations.
And that's
all.
quite simple, just open your development regulations and see if it's permitted use. And write the letter.
It wouldn't be permitted. It would, if anything, it would be
It would be
discretionary, so
Whatever it is in the regulations, but it's not that
I'm gonna
difficult.
double check now. It should be out there anyway.
She's been weeks and weeks and weeks trying to get this letter, and I don't understand.
Yeah, we're not gonna resolve that right now, but we should follow up on
I
it.
think the suggestion that,
Should?
Pomeroy, I'm going to ask you if you would, with some of our staff, get the two departments involved along with NunatuKavut and get them all in the room, because, I mean, some people are saying one thing, someone else is saying a different thing, and we need, the town needs, to make these people aware that we do not own the land that right now that Ms. Cabot is looking for, where she wants to build her dock. We don't own that property. So there's that, so I'm asking you, would you get together with, probably with two of our town staff and to set up a meeting? Yeah, because I requested that, Robert, on the phone with DJ, we requested the two departments to come forward and to make it clear, because the town was looking as if we were the ones who were issuing the stop work orders. And Alex, the way it goes is that we have to carry it out. But so far, the two stop work orders came from two departments, and they'll come down to the town and they'll say, we want your staff to go down and issue a stop work order on these grounds. And, so it's not that the town wanted to come down and stop it. We were instructed by two provincial departments, and that's the way it goes, so.
Yeah, and I completely understand that there's a process, and I've seen the correspondence between these two departments and the town and myself. But like I said, I'm not asking for your approval for this land or for a wharf. I'm just asking if it's within the land development regulations. That's all I'm asking. I'm not asking the town for this, for the land. I'm just asking a general question to be written saying yes or no. This is within the town development regulations.
and that may be as simple as a letter saying that it is discretionary, right, Bert?
It would have, I'd have to double check the regulations,
It's a
but,
quick email to Anna.
like, approval principles are usually done when the council is involved with a major development, like the subdivision, right? But the, other approvals that are done usually have to involve other departments, like the ground, so.
But according to this, it's just a straightforward yes or no. I'm pretty sure we can find it quickly.
Well, we just gotta just find out what that requires. I mean, I know staff's been working hard on it, and we've had a lot of issues over the last couple of months, so I really don't know what the solution is here. I mean, I'm assuming that staff is doing its due diligence, but, maybe we're missing something. I don't know, and if there's anything you can add to this, I really have a lot to understand.
Well, we're missing something if Water Resources says it's requesting information from the town, and the town is not giving it.
And the town never received nothing to say otherwise that we couldn't give it.
Yeah.
So, Deputy Mayor Pomeroy, as Chair of Development and Planning, would you take this and request a meeting with some of our staff? And I suggest also too, you sit down and talk with DJ with the correspondence that he's had and what direction he's been given by Crown Lands and by Lands and Waters as to how to proceed or not to proceed. Like, find that out. And then you can you set up a meeting then with the four parties, the two provincial departments, our staff, and with Ms. Cabot? We'll do that, Alex. And I can say to you that normally we don't discuss delegations, but there's a lot going on here, and I think a lot of it is sometimes it's a little bit confusing. Sometimes, but there's no doubt, we want to work with you to get to the bottom of it, and so that's what you do. I've asked the Deputy Mayor to chair a committee where he would take some of our staff, meet with yourself and with the two departments of government, So we'll make that happen for you.
Okay.
Can we get it done quicker rather than later? Because already waited months to get this letter. So I don't think she wants to wait another couple months. I don't know if there's a time frame on there.
Well, there's not really necessarily a time frame, but I mean, this is September, we're going into October. There's nothing that I can do now in regards to that. But I mean, if I have all my approvals in principle and everything that I can submit to them, and I was speaking to Water Resources as of last Friday, and they said to me, you need to apply for under the Section 48 for whatever you want to do with the land. So I said, yes. I'm still waiting for this required documentation from the town. And she said, yes, we will not accept your application without the approval in principle from the town, just saying that it's in the development regulations, not your approval, because that's their job to ask you, not me. I'm just asking if it's within your discretionary land use regulations or anything like that.
So you reference section 48,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's, you're dealing with comprehensive development.
No, I'm talking about Section 48 of the Water Resources Management, yeah.
Okay, so Deputy Mayor, you'll make that happen in the very, as quick as possible? Okay. Yeah, and we'll keep you informed.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, okay. Okay, we'll move on and adoption of the previous minutes of the 65th minutes, August the 25th, 2020.
There's a correction for those minutes, Mr. Mayor. In Councilor's forum, actually, it's not a big deal, but it was referenced that Councilor Compton Hobbs had spoke, and it was actually me, but it's irrelevant in that.
Could you just repeat that, please? Some people got their mics on. I see.
Councilor Compton
That will be clarified? Okay. All right, so do we still vote on it? We still vote on it? Yeah. Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved by Councillor Dyson Edmonds, seconded by Councillor Compton Hobbs, to make the necessary adjustment, as noted by Councillor Dyson Edmonds. That will be done.
Yes, Your Worship, I've noted the section that requires changing.
Okay, well, until that's clarified, then we can't vote on the motion, right? The adoption of the minutes.
Can we do it like with revisions?
Okay, all right. And that's been done, right? It's been moved in second. Okay, so all in favor of the minutes for August 25th? Carried. The 66 minutes, September the 3rd, 2020. Moved by Councillor Compton Hobbs, seconded by Councillor Dyson Edmonds. All in favor? Carried, unanimous. The adoption of the 67th minutes, September the 15th, 2020. Moved by Deputy Mayor Pomeroy, seconded by Councillor Cran. All in favor? Carried.
Thank you, Your Worship. Municipal Services Committee meeting was held on September the 9th, 2020. Present, myself, Councillor Michelle Bakey, Deputy Mayor Bert Pomeroy, Town Manager Robert Andrew, Municipal Engineer Randy Dillon, Superintendent Frank Brown, Superintendent Water and Sewer Keith Pye, Fire Chief Brad Butler, and Executive Assistant Kathy Eddy. Meeting was called to order at 4:38 p.m. Review of the previous minute and action items. There was no meeting in August. Fire Department Chief Butler's report was attached and reviewed. He reported that since last meeting, there have been 8 emergency calls with the assistance for a total of 92 to date. He advised that all fire apparatuses are fully serviceable. However, Pumper 2 struggled to maintain 10% overload test, indicating the signs of pump water. The truck is 18 years old and consideration will have to be given for eventual replacement. Chief Butler advised various funding initiatives have been made with respect to fire department funding. Fire department has been awarded a grant from the International Grenfell Association in the amount of $13,200 to go towards the SCBA replacement program. Fire Chief Butler advised that FF1 training continues as well as new training program. 3 Wednesdays per month, with the option for various other courses. He said Fire Inspector Robert Hinks has resumed full fire inspection activity and a proposed increase in the monthly rate from $100 to $250 for council's considerations. Public Work Manager's report was attached and reviewed. Manager advised the department continues normal operations in a productive manner while maintaining practices that would be considered safe for all staff and general public. Crews are performing regular seasonal duties such as road grading, sweeping, shoulder maintenance, landfill burial, as well as assisting other departments. Advised that tipping fees to date are approximately $227,000, and that is down roughly $225,000 from the same time last year. Manager advised that the new sweeper has been in regular use since April 27, with the entire town having been swept at least twice. Road line and crosswalk painting have been completed, as turning lanes on Killen Drive and pedestrian delineation markings. He said new 40-kilometre-hour speed signs have been installed on all the roads that intersect with Hamilton River Road or Killen Drive. Significant repairs were required and have been completed to the landfill building after the wood rot issues were identified. Water and Sewer, the manager's report was attached and reviewed. The manager advised that maintenance is ongoing in his department, including fence repairs, painting, and etc. In light of time restraints, he asked if there were any questions with respect to his report. Hearing none, the committee moved to the next manager's report. Engineering, Mr. Dillon, I will call on you now to give us an update on the awarding of the tender for the Killen Drive extension, and also on the Wellness Centre, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. As Council is aware, the tenders closed for the local road improvements, which consisted of 4 different projects. The Killen Drive extension, the Killen Drive reconstruction. We also had $2 million approved for the multi-year capital works local road upgrades, and as well we had a storm drainage improvements project. Overall, tenders came in, I would say the low tender was pretty well close to being on budget. The results of the tenders were Johnson Construction. I'd also like to note that this included for the paving of the ECDA parking lot. The Johnson Construction tender was $5,769,833.93. Markland Construction was $8,913,487.05. Dexter Construction was $9,363,612.57. The nature of the tender is that we had 4 different projects, and basically they stand on their own as far as funding is concerned. So we can't take savings from one project and apply it to overages on another project. So in this particular case, the Killen Drive extension overall was $259,870 under budget. We had $2 million allocated for that budget, and it was $259,870 below budget. Killen Drive reconstruction was, the total cost is $306,364 overage, over the budget. So in this particular case, what the town will have to do in order to award the contract is to allocate the additional $306,000 for this particular project. The local roads multi-year capital works project was, we had $2 million allocated for that. That total cost came in at $154,500 under budget. So we have a savings in that project. The storm improvements project, we had $55,000 allocated for that, and that project was $3,451 below budget also. So only one of the projects was over budget, and all the other three projects were below budget, even though the total cost, as to, if you include all the funding totals together, it was pretty well on budget. But because they were separated out, we had to address the issue of the $306,000 additional funds required for the reconstruction project. I know the mayor had approached the MHA Perry Trimper, and he was going to approach the Department of Municipal Affairs with the possibility of including the two Kellen Drive projects together, so that the underage on one could balance off the overage on the other. But I'm advised that this has to go to Infrastructure Canada, and we don't have a formal decision on this yet, but it's very, very unlikely that their policy is not to approve any overruns on any projects whatsoever.
Just a question, just for clarity. So the amount under budget for the extension project, that can't be used anywhere else?
That's right, Deputy Mayor.
Yeah.
Further, but Randy, I think,
He's not finished his report yet, sorry to point of order again.
okay.
He's got to finish his report and then have discussion on the facility, correct?
You can ask questions.
While he's doing his report.
Yeah, we all ask questions during the report.
This is going to be the end of the report here now. Please accept the report or whatever.
We've asked questions before, but we'll carry on.
I'm glad you're awake. Everything I say is opposite of what you did, yeah. Okay, whatever. Carry on, Randy.
All right, so we have, there's 157 working days to complete the contract. We have a 60-day tender validity period before we actually have to award the contract. So basically, we have another month to award the contract. Based on the information that I've received so far, that we're going to have to allocate an additional $300,000 to award the contract. Within the next few days, I know I've been advised of the mayor that he's going to be out of town for the next few days. So I'm proposing that I will have a briefing note prepared to award the contract next Tuesday to Johnson Construction in the amount, the bid price amount. And I've been talking to Johnson Construction, I've been assured that they'll be on site the first thing next summer, and their intention is to get this work done very, very quickly. We still have to award the contract right now, because we have to get this awarded within the next month.
So, we're not gonna wait for your report to be accepted, so I'll just move on too. You said it was $300,000 over, I just wanna understand this now. 300, whatever it is, over on the Kellen Drive Road, right? And 260 under for the extension. And so, the government seems like they're not gonna support putting the two together so that one covers after the other, right?
That's correct, Councilor.
Yeah, so, the buffer is at 14 meters, and there was the mayor knows that he made a comment in the second public consultation that if it came in under budget, we would look at this again. So I'm just wondering, are we gonna look at this again? And what would it cost if it was moved at 30 meters? Because right now it's at 14, and the controversy was to move it back further to save the trails. If it was to be moved back, do we know the price it would cost if it was to move back 30 meters?
Yes, Councillor, based upon the pre-tender estimates, now that this hasn't been analyzed with respect to the low bid tender amounts, but right now, based upon the pre-tender estimates, it would be approximately $165,000 to relocate the road with a 30-meter buffer.
So, just so everybody understands, and the public or whoever's listening, $165,000, but it wouldn't be because we have a savings of 260, correct?
That would come from the savings, that's right.
Yeah. So wouldn't that cost the town an extra 165,000? Because there's savings there, right?
Yeah. Right now, that amount has been budgeted for.
Right.
So the thing is, the town wouldn't save as much.
They-
That's the issue, yeah.
Yeah, they wouldn't save 260.
Right, because out of that $260,000 savings, the town share of that is 1/3.
Yeah. So they'd be saving how much instead of, if the road per se was put back another 15 meters? to
Well,
30?
the town share of that would be roughly 55,000.
Right.
So the town wouldn't save, right now, they're saving 1/3 of the 250. Now they would only be saving, 65,000 less of that.
So there's a few options. I mean, we could have a discussion with that group again, and we could budget monies to move it back. Who's to say, I mean, the residents, I don't know, they might get money somewhere else to say, we'll pay the 55,000 or whatever. There's other options to look at now that we know it's under budget, right?
Yes, you're correct, Councillor, there are
Yeah.
options.
And I think we made a commitment, Mayor, in this room, the second public consultation, that we would look at it if it came in under budget.
I made a commitment, but what it is that when all is said and done, we're over budget on the work, the scope of work, everything that we had in there that we tendered, we're over. Well, we have a saving of 206, one came in 200-something thousand dollars under, the other one has come in $300,000 over. And the way it works, that we will save 1/3, because the provincial government made a commitment of X number of dollars, same as the feds, up to a point. And for example, if they were going to put in $1 million each, and we were putting $1 million each, okay? If the tender come in at $2 million, that doesn't mean that the town is saving $1 million. The federal government and the province will only pay for 1/3 of what the actual contract that the tender price came in at.
Just to clarify that, because I want to understand this myself too, can you break it down, the actual figures we're talking about here, Randy? Not $1 million, 1 million, but the actual figures. You're saying we had 4 projects, 1 was over, 3 was under.
That's right, yeah.
So there's a savings in 3 projects, right? So 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, there's still a savings.
Yeah, there is a savings, but our savings is, say, on the extension, our savings is 1/3, but on the overrun, on the reconstruction, our additional costs are 100%.
Right, so either way you chop it up and look at it, there's savings.
There are savings on 3, but they will not offset the total cost of the overrun on the reconstruction
No,
project.
but now we know if the road was moved back to 30 meters instead of 14, it would cost the town $55,000.
That's right,
1/3,
that's right,
correct?
yeah.
So $55,000 we could look at budgeting if we had the desire to do so, is what I'm getting at.
One question on, would we have to go to tender again if we change the scope of the project? Because the other bidders Like,
No, what we'd have to do is, we'd have to, I'd have to go back to the consultant, and that would have to be, there would be change order issued, and it would all be subject to negotiation with additional quantities and to make sure that the contractor's willing to, and we'd have to get another survey done. The soil conditions may change. So that's why I say these are only estimates at this stage. We'd have to do more geotechnical investigation. We'd have to confirm the prices. Right now, these are just basically as a paper exercise. So we'd have to go back and, and we also have to go to Crown Lands and get the route changed for the road. And we'd have to, finalize the quantities and then get agreement with the contractor. Once we award the contract to the contractor, get agreement with him that he would be agreeable to changing the route, and then we would change the quantities and get a final cost.
So we have to award the contract first.
We have to award the contract first, that's right.
So, land is just a matter of adding on to the letter that you got sent, and that's taking months before that's gonna be approved, right?
It's going to take a few months for Crown Lands. I'm hoping to have all this done before, I have it expedited with Crown Lands.
Right.
I'm hoping to have all this work done well before the contractor is started. I don't think it's too late if they wanted, if the town wanted to change the route, that we go back to Crown Lands and say we have a route change that we would like to be addressed in this approval. But that's something else that we would have to decide on sooner rather than later, because we need a survey done. We'd like to get the survey done before winter comes and so on.
So if the contract is awarded to Johnson's, they wouldn't start to work till the spring or the summer or whatever.
That's right.
And would that include just the Kellen Road or the extension too with?
When they start work, they'll move in and they'll do everything.
Right. So now's the time to look at if we're going to change anything or move it back further or whatever.
That's right, Councilor. We should have all this agreed to and finalized soon after we award the contract.
Randy, the government broke our package down. While there's 4 different projects, government broke them down into 2 categories, right? It wasn't 4, it was 2 tenders. One tender came in $300 and something dollars over, the other one was $200 and something dollars under. But
yeah, there were four projects,
yeah.
But the Kellen Drive was broken down into 2.
But at the end of the day, for us to do what council voted on, with this contract, with the government breaking down into 2 contracts, there is no savings to the town. There is the town, because if we're going to carry on with the other part, we're going to have to go and borrow money. So really, at the end of the day, there are no savings.
From our total amount of funding that we had approved, there is no savings, because we have to pay 100% of the overrun on the reconstruction project.
So we had $200,000 budgeted, right? How much do we have budgeted from the town?
We have, for the 2 Kellen Drive projects, we had 1/3 of the total cost
Which
was
is how
the
much?
town share. 1/3 of each of the projects was the town share. So roughly, on $2 million, it was roughly $666,000.
How much did we have allotted for the extension?
It was $2 million, yes.
Right, but the town share, how much is that?
Would be 1/3 of that, less the GST, HST
The
rebate.
math.
So it would be, I'm not sure, when you have to take into account the rebate, so it would probably be, $550,000, $600,000 or something.
Right.
Can I just pop in and ask one question? We had roughly, I think it was, $6 million, I think, for road work and infrastructure upgrades and everything combined?
That's correct,
In
Councilor.
round numbers.
That's right.
So this, the bid we received from Johnson was
5.769, and
Okay,
that included
so
the
now,
parking lot too.
I guess my
BCD.
question is, if we award the contract to Johnson's at 5.7 million, do we still get 1/3 funding on 6 million, or do we get the 1/3 funding on the actual contract cost? Would it be 5.7?
Yeah, that 5.7, we also have to include the engineering cost on top of that.
Yeah,
So once we include the engineering costs, it's very close to around 6 million.
okay.
So we will get our cost share. I know on the multi-year, our cost share is 60%, that's 60/40 program. This one, the Kellen Drive projects are one-third, one-third, one-third. So we're paying one-third of the cost. Multi-year, we're paying 40% of the cost.
So we already have money allotted for the extension to move back, whatever. So if we looked at moving it back another 15 meters, it would cost the town approximately $55,000.
That's correct.
Right. So no matter which way you looks at it, if we were to look at moving it back another 15 meters to make it 30, it would, a rough estimate of $55,000 is what it would cost the town.
That's right.
Right. Yeah. We had 250 there, so we need to come up with another 50. So Randy explained that. So we're short 300,000. The government looks like they're not gonna combine the project, the monies, to offset another. So we had 1/3 there already, you said, or the town's commitment would have been 1/3.
Yep. So we have 2 million. There are two separate projects at this stage.
Yeah.
We need 306,000, whatever, for one. That's completely separate. We need to finance that extra 306,000.
Right.
The other one, we have that additional 250. We don't spend that 256. We can't use it elsewhere,
Right, got you.
right? So is a savings, but we can't use it on any other project.
So we would have had to borrow money anyway to get this done. Yes. Why not?
So we added up $306,000 needed to complete Kellen Drive extension, or
Reconstruction.
resurfacing, and $55,000 to make alterations. I still have concerns about future development in that area and putting a road right through it. And so that's $411,000 that the town would have to come up with.
Well, right now on the extension, we have our share of the extension
say-
budgeted for it.
$361,000.
See, there's conflicting information, which bothers me. And you talk about development, what about water tables and bog and all that up in that area?
That was all done during that report in 2012.
I know, but I mean,
And-
we all know, anybody who knows that area up there, there's bog up there. And
Yeah.
Look at Mitchell, what happened there a couple of years ago.
Yes.
That's lower ground,
So
right?
And
it's not I don't see future development up there at all, myself, personally. Maybe in an area closer to this Kellen Drive, but not back there, I don't see it at all.
And I would advise council too, if council decides to investigate, the change of the route, we should do an investigation as to what potential development there is in the area. We'll have to do an investigation as to the soil conditions and so on in the area. We're going to have to do that anyway. Right, so that route change should tie into that study.
And that study didn't recommend that road, well, there was no recommendation, but the study was done to look at potential development.
Yeah, I'm not sure what kind of detail, once now we have a route where actually we can choose an exact route as to where that extension will go. And we can plan exactly where future development and future lots will be constructed. So we're in a better position now as to exactly identify where that new road will go. So we'd have to do that before, it might be 15 meters, it might be better if it was 20 or 25 meters, who knows, until we actually do the solids investigation and check them.
When the west of Hefner was developed and that road was put in, the intention was to just continue straight on with it. And from an economic or from a financial standpoint, that would have been in the best interest of the town financially. And it wouldn't have interfered with any of the trails either, if the buffer was behind, similar as what's up behind Adams Loop. And not in my time have I ever received calls from people in Adams Loop about traffic, and hearing traffic in their backyard, but that was the biggest concern initially, from the beginning, was too close to our property lines. And then it turned into, now you're destroying trails, but if it went back to the original plan, then you would, you would do everything on budget and you wouldn't hurt the trails. So if it's a trail issue, why don't we go back to the original proposal? So, I mean, there's two sides to it.
I don't think it's just a trail issue, I think we all know that.
No, it's very neat of that.
You know, it's more to it than trails. Geez, go up there berry picking the weekend. Lots of berries up there that's gonna be tore up too. But anyway, you know, if we're gonna do it, we should do it right. We only gets one shot at it, and for the sake of $55,000, and I know you're saying there's still 300,000 we gotta come up with
On top of that.
on top of that, but if we gotta get a loan for that 300,000 to make it work, then why can't we look at another 55,000 to move it back?
The only option, I said in terms of loans, I think there are other options that we can look at. We do receive annual gas tax money, and I believe the town clerk can probably speak to this. We did receive an advance for next year, right? That we could use. We haven't yet received it, but we've been allocated that there is an advance for next year that we should get this fall. Yeah. So that's the 300,000 there, potentially for.
I believe
Kevin
this
Drive.
warrants a full discussion with all of council, and we should do it before the budget. And especially if we're gonna look at
We still
award.
have to award the tender though, beforehand, because you'd have to retender, right?
As long as you find that that doesn't impact us doing anything with this, if
No.
we decide.
Well, I think the first step is to award the contract.
Yeah.
Because then we can't really discuss with the contractor until we award the contract about changing, if there's any going to be any change in any route of the extension. So the first step is to award the contract, get that done, and then if there's any,
You have a better relationship with the contractor then to change.
yeah,
And that's the reason why it was important for us to get the government to try and get it under one contract, because we would have had a little bit, you know, like a little bit of savings, and you know, we would be in far better shape. Like and I say if we decided that we were going to move the road back. If government would have accepted our tender as one, we would be roughly about $65,000 that we would need to come up with,
that's correct, Mayor.
you know, and that, you know, and you know, and I did say if there's savings, but I mean, we would be in a far better shape if government accepted our thing as one tender. Instead of breaking it down, because it's going to cost us a lot of money. And I don't think that we should rule out. I mean, we've dealt with COVID and so on, and we got a very small amount of help from the federal government. And again, I think, you know, we can award the tender, but you know, we should still, I think, carry the fight to both the federal government and to the provincial government that we want our tender as one. We would be in a better, our finances would be in you know, a better position, because we would have to pay $65,000. But now, if the way it's broken down, that we're going to have to pay the extra $300,000.
And I mentioned that exact thing to MHA Trooper last week, and he was still working on it as far as I knew. This was Friday, and he said it made sense when I said it. So exactly what you're saying, and looking at movies rolled out.
I think we could take advantage of the fact that we've got MP Jones in a position too, where she could, I mean, every time we turn around, the regulations are quoting COVID is the cause of this. So I think maybe reaching out to the MP and asking them to go back to the feds and say, you know, you can get permission for certain departments to make changes in light of COVID. Why can't it be done here?
That's correct, Councillor, because it is basically, the province is saying it's a federal decision.
Yeah.
So I think our next step is with the feds.
Well, Mr. Mayor, when we were in Ottawa, think we should take advantage of that. Perhaps we can call a meeting with both of them.
I think too that we mentioned this in a meeting that we had where, council should meet with the new premier and some of these senior ministers. And I think, we should make that happen sooner or later because, look, the province is looking for a way out where they can save a bit of money. And we can remind them, we all know of the water that, or the money that came for floods and for riverbank erosion. And the feds gives it to the province to disperse. Now, we ask the question, where's ours? And you look around and you see all the money that Deer Lake is getting and the other communities, you're well aware of this too, Deputy Mayor Pomeroy, out there. Where's our money? So, we need to hold the feet to the fire. And like, we've been, council, we would be in a far better position if we were to do something over and above what we've already done with pushing that road further back. If we got our tender as one, the province and the feds do it as one, then we all know that it's going to be top next year for money, and but we would be in a better frame of mind, I guess, and money ways to.
Can we request a meeting then with two of them? To try to have a big discussion with this whole process?
Yes, we can. We can, and perhaps we should look at the timing too. I do believe that there's a conference in St. John's where the MP is speaking. That's the Atlantic Maritime Security Surveillance Conference. What's that? No, in person. Yeah, so we can look at that anyway. So.
I just one question now. Any idea why the cost? There's cost over like additional cost for the Kellen Drive project. Is it due to having to reconfigure the intersection at Heffler? Is that part of the extra cost? Because that was a cost that was not anticipated initially.
No, actually, that cost is going to be in the extension project.
Okay, so I think we're all adamant that we want to get a meeting with the province and the feds in the same room to talk about this tender because the amount of money we can save.
And if there's an option to move it back,
So,
you really got to consider future use for that area. I think you can't just ignore the future use for that area. I mean, we could be lying dead and gone, but at some point, there's going to be future development in our community, and there's nowhere else to expand.
there's lots of land up in that area, whether it's off to it or on the other side.
Yeah, but within that particular subdivision itself, right, the Johnny Hill subdivision.
Or wherever, there's lots of land,
Not developed.
so
bigger picture to look at.
if it's council's decision and wishes, I will have a chat with Whalen, our public relation officer, to see if he can set up a meeting, with the premier and senior government officials, and see if we can have, who knows, maybe Seamus Reagan might be in St. John's at the same time. So if it's council's consent, then I would ask Whalen to go there and look at some possible dates. Okay? Yeah. Okay, all right, okay, we'll do that.
Yes, I was going to give an update also on the Wellness Center. So do you want me to carry on with that?
Your worship, if I go forward, I don't get to the washroom. Sorry. Can we take a 5-minute recess? Or can I just walk out and walk back in?
In the middle of your report?
I'm done with my report, I just gotta get to the bathroom.
No, you gotta get it accepted. You don't even have a secretary. Right, Mr. Dillon is not finished yet.
I'll just give a brief rundown.
Okay, we'll give you 3 minutes.
Don't be lying.
You gotta go.
So,
Okay, excuse me, I'll call the meeting back to order, and Engineer Dillon, carry on with your presentation.
All right, thank you, Mayor. The CL Central Labrador YMCA is progressing very well. We have about 3.5 weeks to completion for the pool tile. The gym floor started installation today, which is going to take about 4 days for completion. We have about 2 weeks to start for the carpet tiles in the unfinished areas. The elevator was received this week, and that's going to be about a 2-week installation. The bathroom fixtures and accessories are being installed, as well as the doors are being hung and so on. The Class A is being installed and is just about complete, and the asphalt will be started in 2 days' time, as well as the landscaping is ongoing. So we're all set to, be substantially complete in December. So that's it for the CLYMCA.
Can I make one point on that?
the park, I don't know if I just missed it, but the parking lot is gonna be paved at the YMCA, right, the Wellness Center?
It's going to be started, they got the Class A down now just about, and they're going to start the day after tomorrow.
Okay, I think it'd be important that we put a PSA out that this is being done, and I guess Promelo is doing that, right?
It'll be done by Markland. It was subbed out to Markland Construction by Pamela.
But it's under the contract of Promelo?
Yes, it is.
Because I can see the community's gonna be very upset that Kellen Drive is not done, and the parking lot at the Wellness Center will be, and unless we put the information out there to provide it to them why this is happening,
Sure.
we'll get a lot of flack, I think.
The other thing too, during municipal services meeting, a question was asked about the cuts in the road and other areas around town, and I believe these are being done around the same time.
Cuts are being done right now, actually,
Yeah,
today,
so it's
and
the same company that's doing it?
that's right.
That was a part of the plan by Frank and them, right? That like I know on a lot of roads they got the cuts already made, but they left the asphalt there because they didn't want to take it up until in this case Markland was in town. So I think that as you said, they're going to start doing these fill-ins now in the next couple of days.
Yeah, that's correct, Mayor.
Okay, so guys, I ask that my report be accepted as presented.
I'll second that.
It has been moved by Councillor Cran, seconded by Councillor Dyson Edmonds. Are there any Are there any questions for Councillor Cran, whose mic is on, by the way? There being no further questions, all in favour of his report? Carried unanimous. Okay, we'll move on to Community Services and Recreation. Councillor Compton Hobbs.
Director Dominic Demers, Town Manager Robert Andrews, PR Public Relations Waylon Williams, Executive Assistant Kathy Eddy, and Michelle Northover, our campaign manager, capital campaign manager. Michelle Northover advised us that she continues to do outreach. Prospect outreach. They met with Nunatsiavut within the last week. Right now, they have $1 million in asks out there that she's waiting for responses on. COVID has slowed the process down a bit, but she's positive and motivated, and we're continuing to move forward, and hopefully we get some positive results. September 26th, we had a discussion on that. It's Senior Day and Happy Valley Day. Due to COVID, we won't be having an event at Kinsman Park, but we are doing a proclamation Saturday morning at 10 a.m. and we're going to be doing running a contest online, and we have some prizes for that. So Public Relations Manager Waylon Williams put together some questions, pretty straightforward. What was the original name before becoming Happy Valley? What was the founding date? Who were the families that founded Happy Valley, and who was the first mayor of Happy Valley, and who is the current mayor? So encourage everybody out there to get their entries in for a chance to win a prize, some great prizes. That's Saturday. Submit by Friday, September 25th. The Curling Club submitted a letter advising that they will be getting their organization back on track. They're hoping by late October. There was some maintenance completed at the Curling Club, so they're pleased with that, and they're hoping for a huge turnout this year. They'll have a plan put in place following the Canada Curling Club guidelines, and we're working with them now to get that finalized. Bike trail, I'm going to ask Randy to give an update when I finish my report on the bike trail. An update on if the gateways are going to be started this year. Arena renovations are ongoing. The ice season, looking at the end of September. There's a hockey camp going to happen the first weekend of October. Kinsman Park, we have a second gazebo on the way, hoping to have it here in October. The splash pad closed earlier this month, last week. Now that the grass cutting has slowed down, Dominic is using some of the staff to do some brush cutting. I know he's been behind Husky Park doing some brush cutting. There is a soccer program that started through minor soccer, so that's good. The youth and the children are pleased with that, and the parents. And there was a Darren Budgell Memorial Tournament held at the men's field and the minor field last weekend, and they had a good turnout, and the tournament went well. Players were pleased to get out, and of course there was a lot of support there for the Memorial Darren Budgell Tournament. Birch Island, we're soon meeting to discuss the MOU. It's been sent back to HWL for review, so we're hoping to sit down with them in the next few weeks. And some upcoming events is the minor hockey season and the hockey camp that I already mentioned. And our next meeting is scheduled for August the 5th, 2020. Please accept my report as presented.
It's been moved by Councillor Compton Hobbs, seconded by Councillor Cran. Are there any discussions?
I just wanted to get an update, Randy, on the bike trail gateways.
Yes, thank you, Councillor. We have the design completed for the gateways. The intention is to tender the asphalt portion of it for next year's completion. We do have the design submitted for the two gateways, one up by the intersection of Kellen Drive and Hamilton River Road, and the other one down in the Tim Hortons area. I took the design that was submitted, completed by DMG, and I forwarded that to our consultant on the roads, CBCL Limited, because it's very close to that intersection, and I know in the next year or two we are planning some major improvements to the Loring Drive, Kellen Drive traffic flow in that area. And I didn't want to have this tendered and constructed to find out in a year or so that we're going to be tearing that area up again. So I forwarded that design to CBCL for their comment as to if there will be any potential impact for that work if it's completed. And I'm still waiting on CBCL for their reply.
The only thing I'd say on that is I'm a little bit concerned if that don't go ahead, because we did allocate over 700,000 last year for trails, and we do have a design completed, and you know, there's over 200,000 now left to spend on trails, and they badly need to be upgraded, especially the bike trail.
Yes.
So I'm a little bit concerned if that don't go ahead this year, and I think it should be a priority for us to make sure that that happens. Something is done with them trails anyway. The money is allotted already, budgeted, so.
Yeah, well, that's right, Councillor. The intent is to get it tendered, and then once we get the contract awarded, and depending upon the weather conditions and so on, then we'll have the contract to start to work, or he might, you know, depending upon material supply and so on, it may not be really conducive to getting the work done this year. So we'll have to wait and see once we get the project tendered and get the contract awarded. It's going to take another month, 5 weeks or so. We could be starting to get into the winter weather. It may not be practical to actually get that work done this year. And depending upon whether or not we can proceed with that north gateway, depending upon what improvements we're going to be doing to that Kellen Drive, Hamilton River Road intersection, would also have an effect as to whether or not we're going to tender that this year.
Are there any further questions?
Randy, do we have any update on consultations with Jason with regards to the daycare for the wellness center? We were looking for another update on that.
Sorry. Yes, Councillor, I can probably provide a brief answer to that. There was a brief call between the engineer, the rec director, myself and Mr. Brown just a few days back, so there will be some minutes or meeting notes coming out to Council, I'll say momentarily, but probably in about a day, to get an update on that. And there was an indication that Mr. Brown is looking at actually being in Goose Bay around the early few days of October, and we can probably set something up a little bit more formal then with Council as well.
Are there any further questions on the report? There being none, all in favor? Aye. Carried unanimous.
Thank you, Mayor.
I'm sorry, I didn't have my mic on. We'll move on to development planning and Deputy Mayor Pomeroy.
Thanks, Mayor. The Development Planning Enforcement Committee met on September the 10th. Present were myself as chair, Councillors Compton Hobbs and Councillor Laurie Dyson Edmonds, Town Engineer Randy Dillon, Town Manager Robert Andrews, Municipal Enforcement Officer Larry Baker, Municipal Tech DJ Elliott, GIS Tech Paul Zell, and Executive Assistant Kathy Eddy. Meeting was called to order at 4:49 p.m. We reviewed previous minutes and action items. There were no errors or omissions. Much of the discussion centered on Crown land and discretionary use applications. There's a number of applications, recommendations that will be coming forward shortly. There was also one discussion around a variance application, which council dealt with last week because it was a time-sensitive issue. We reviewed the municipal enforcement report, a copy of which is contained in the council package. Financial control summary, as well as the monthly payments report for fines and tickets, was not available at the time of the meeting. I'm not sure if there's, I haven't received anything, that I guess it'll be ready for the next update at one for the next meeting. The report noted there were 19 speeding tickets issued during the month. 3 tickets for jumping stop signs, and 6 for failing to use seat belts. Total of 27 warning tickets were also issued. Municipal enforcement officer advised that transient issue is still consuming a lot of his time, noting in his report that there were 2 public nuisance charges laid and 26 warnings for loitering, as well as 4 warnings for littering. Committee also reviewed the monthly animal control report, as well as complaints report, both of which are contained in your package. There was also some discussion on dilapidated buildings, again with emphasis being placed on one in particular that has been an issue for the past number of years. The matter was discussed with Minister Dempster during a recent visit with council. The Minister advised that she was not fully apprised of the issue, but committed to look at finding and helping the town to find a solution and working with other groups and agencies. Town manager, I'm not sure if there's anything new on that since our last meeting in terms of that particular property. I know there was things in motion. Has there been anything new since our last discussion on that?
No new developments since our last meeting, Deputy Mayor.
Okay, thank you. There was also discussion on the town's body camera policy. While the policy was passed earlier this summer, cameras were still not being utilized by the municipal enforcement officer or the animal control officer. Town manager advised that there were no provisions in the policy that would allow the animal control officer to use a body camera. Committee suggested the municipal enforcement officer immediately be given the authority to use the body camera based on the policy. And I believe that was put in effect pretty well immediately the next day, within 24 hours. Committee also suggested the policy be amended to allow the animal control officer to do the same. And there is a recommendation coming forward from the Finance Policy and Administration Committee to that effect this evening. Committee also asked staff to arrange meetings with the Nunatsiavut group of companies, as well as Glen Corporation, to discuss the town, Goose Bay Town Center, as well as the West of Heffler development agreements, respectively. We also asked that meetings be arranged with the property owner for the property on Hamilton River Road, just east of the turnoff by the Trans-Labrador Highway, to find out about future plans for that particular area. And I'm not sure, Town Manager, has there any arrangements been made to try and set up some of these meetings?
Working on arrangements right now, and I'll follow up with the engineer again tomorrow to see if we can finalize some dates for the committee.
Thank you. There being no further business, the meeting adjourned at 6:10 p.m. The next committee meeting is scheduled for October the 8th at 4:45 p.m. And with that, Your Worship, I move that the committee's report be accepted as read.
It's been moved by Councillor Pomeroy, seconded by Councillor Dyson Edmonds. Are there any questions on the report? There being none, all in favour? I'm sorry.
Can we, the property that we referred to, that we discussed with Minister Dempster, can we action item that this be followed up with? Because it's been gone on too long, and we keep letting it go. I think we need to keep their feet to the fire and the pressure on them, because something serious is going to happen, right? And we expressed that with Minister Dempster, but I think we need to, almost like a weekly follow-up, so that they're on top of it.
Yeah, no, I agree, Councillor, and I believe the mayor has had discussions with her as well about this. Actually, a letter was forwarded to her, I believe, in January, and she was given another copy of the letter as of last week, earlier this week, so I think the mayor's been in discussions with her as well.
Yeah, so if we could get any update we can, it'd be good. The other thing I was going to mention is, I mentioned to the council last week, I think it was, about a senior that reached out. There was an intruder at her house, and she had to call the RCMP, and she was quite upset and watched the intruder across the street and so on and so on. Anyway, she reached out and she was quite upset, and we mentioned that we would have our community constable patrol that area. And actually, he took it a step further and went in and met with her, and she wanted me to relay a message that she was very grateful and appreciated the visit, and she got some information, and he gave her a card and whatever, and which eased her mind. So she wanted to thank the town and the council and the staff and everyone for that visit that she had, that actually she was quite overwhelmed and shocked with the incident, and felt a little bit at ease after she met with our community council. So that's good. I just wanted to put that out there.
Okay, are there, maybe we will keep after the provincial government regarding the house down on Markland, but certainly I think if nothing is done by the time that, if we can arrange a meeting with officials in St. John's, that this would be one of the top things we have on our agenda as well. Councillor Dyson Edmonds.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Further to Councillor Compton Hobbs mentioning our municipal enforcement, I've gotten several messages just within the past few days thanking the municipal enforcement officer for going above and beyond with regards to the couple in Spruce Park, as well as with a few incidents that have happened around town in the trails. And to get a message from a resident saying that they have a bit of a renewed faith in the decision for this municipal enforcement officer, and the fact that they are much more comfortable now with their young daughters. He has went above and beyond, and I really want to make sure that he knows that we really appreciate everything that he has been doing. The seniors down on the lower end of the valley are constantly singing his praises, and he's been making his presence known on Grenfell Street and Cartwright Road in particular, where there's been some huge issues with some harassment of some seniors, and a big thanks to him for that as well.
Is there any update on the street numbering policy?
Town manager, you want to take this one?
Street numbering policy will be available for the next committee meeting.
Just a couple of things. I'm around town to a lot of people who were upset when we hired the enforcement officer. Has said that they can see his wealth within the community, and then you get some who complain, but we heard it all that one time that you got a community enforcement officer, well, he's not doing nothing. Then we go to the one we got now, where he's adamant about doing his job and protecting people, that we heard from the two councillors over here. There was one more item. In particular, I was talking to a people on, I think it's Megan, and there's a big apartment building there, and the people across the street, their house is number 3. But on this big apartment house, which is on the other side of the road, it doesn't go A, B, C, it goes 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's been brought to me by a couple that they've had people come with deliveries of pizza for 3 Megan Street. Not us. It must be across the road. So it's confusing, and certainly the part about if there's a need for the ambulance services, and or like any crunch that. It's been discussed a lot, and we need to get this out and up and running.
I don't know if there's maybe there's a simple solution to that one in particular. If the property owner was contacted and say there's issues with respect to numbering, I don't think it would be any big deal to have to go from 1 to A to 2 to B and so on. I think that's probably the issue here. But maybe it might be just a simple request.
Are there any further questions? There being none, all in favor of the report? Carried unanimous. Okay, we'll move on to, let me get my agenda here. Okay, we'll move on to economic development and public engagement, and Councillor Dyson Edmonds. It looks like it's going to be lengthy. Carry on there, Deputy Mayor.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. We have a number of discretionary use applications. First one, 587 Churchill Falls Road. Why it's still called Churchill Falls Road, I don't know, but I guess that's the way it's registered in the assessment. DPE committee recommends council deny approval of an application from Mr. Stephen Gregory for seasonal residential cottage located at 587 Churchill Falls Road due to the fact that the lot location is not compliant with the town's development regulations in relation to NEF noise contours, which state no residential development shall be permitted above the NEF 35 contour line as shown on the land use zoning maps.
It's been moved by Councillor Pomeroy. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Cran. Any discussion?
I'd like to, I know we got to vote on that motion first, but I would like to amend that motion to defer it until we can get further information from NAV Canada and Transport Canada and whoever else we need to. Because I know it's a regulation, but in that area, there's already several residence cottages, people living there, so I just like to defer, I'd like to make an amendment to defer the recommendation until we get further information from NAV Canada and the other groups. Yes.
Yeah.
Second that.
Okay, it's been moved by Councillor Dyson, Councillor Compton Hobbs, seconded by Councillor Dyson Edmonds. Is the amendment in order?
What you're asking for is to defer the recommendation? Or
Yes.
are you asking to make an amendment to the,
I'm asking to defer the recommendation,
based on,
that we get further information.
okay. I mean, and I guess the mover and the seconder would have to agree to that. Just for the benefit of those listening, the development regulations, Part 2, Section 40.1, airport noise exposure forecast contours and residential development. Underlined, residential development. No residential development shall be permitted above the NEF 35 contour line as shown on the land use zoning maps. And all development is subject to the Goose Bay Airport zoning regulations, which is included in Schedule E of our regulations. So the I want to wait for that to pass. So the regulations are clear. The land itself, the land that's in question for the seasonal residential cottage, lies within those contours, and we can't change that. So whether we defer it or not, at the end of the day, we can't change those noise contours. Those are set and have been set for 10 years. The only way it could be changed, and I'm not sure, maybe we can look and defer it, but we need to look at what our future Like our next town plan has, in with respect to those contours, I'm pretty certain that NABCAN and Goose Bay Airport Corporation, Transport Canada, D&D, whomever, would have been consulted in terms of the next town plan. So maybe it should be deferred until we can go back to our consultant and look at that particular area. Now, I mean, it still would be discretionary decision of council regardless, because the area is zoned rural. It's not a residential area. It's zoned rural. And, but as the regulations stand right now, it would not be permitted based on the regulations as they stand right now. I'm not sure deferring is going to change that. And how long would you defer it for? It might take months, could take 6 months and nothing could be changed without a zoning change anyway, and those, not the zoning change, but the contours would have to change. I don't think that's something as simple as picking up the phone and saying change the noise contours. We've had multiple people apply for with similar applications up in that particular area that were turned down for the same reasons. So, do we go back to them and say, oh, reapply? I mean, I think, we got to be careful that we don't step outside the development regulations as they are. If there's a way to change the regulations that can be more accommodating in that particular area, then the question begs, are we promoting urban sprawl? Is that what we want? I don't think any municipality wants urban sprawl, because it becomes bigger issues down the road in terms of providing services at some point. So I'm okay to defer if the seconder is okay to defer.
I'm okay with it. Yeah, I'm good with that, Deputy Mayor.
So the motion would be to defer this recommendation until, I guess, the next public council meeting at the earliest.
Yeah, until we get further information.
I think we need some further conversation with NAV Canada and other people. Like, I mean, if this is what they're saying, that about their contours and so on. I mean, people have put residents up there, rightfully or wrongly. They're there, and if that was put there by NAV Canada and the federal government, then we're not hearing much kickback with regard to the number of houses that has been put there. And I know that it's our regulation, and it's pretty difficult to vote against your own regulation, but still, like, I think that like, it warrants a discussion, with some of our staff and probably your committee with the appropriate agencies.
I mean, I don't agree with that either, but it's there, and whether I like it or not, I'm still obliged to follow it, unless there are changes at some point. But at this point, those are the regulations, and I guess the new town plan, I would like to see that as well. I'd like to have more time to look at the new town plan as well, to see what the noise contours are for that particular area. I'm assuming, and I shouldn't assume, but I would think that the consultant would have taken all that into consideration and reached out to those different federal departments to in developing our new town plan. So I think we need to look at that, because things could probably change with the new town plan anyway.
So it's been
Yes, I'm in agreement to move to defer.
okay, the amendment has been made. The mover and the seconder of the recommendation to deny is fine with it, so the recommendation has been made to defer. I put the question, all in favor? Carry, unanimous.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. The next application, same zoning, Church of Falls Road, Joe Cabot. Committee recommends council deny the application for Mr. Joe Cabot for storage of industrial material on land owned on Church of Falls Road due to the fact that approval of this application in a rural zone, as it is discretionary, we received, and from the results from a public advertisement, showed that there was significant opposition from residents with seasonal cottages in the area.
It's been moved by Councillor Pomeroy, seconded by Councillor Dyson Edmonds. Any discussion on the, I'm sorry.
No, I just wanted to add for discussion. Now, I went through the package, I looked at the letters that were sent. There was one letter with multiple signatures and another letter as well. And in both letters, they said, this is a residential area. I want to be clear, this is not a residential area. It's a rural, it's zoned rural. And seasonal cottage is a discretionary use, the same as a junkyard. And all have to be looked at based on their own merits. Now, I think the concerns they have are quite legitimate, from the information that was provided. And having a scrapyard, I believe, is within 4 kilometers of the Quarry Road area. It says 15 kilometers up the road. I took the time to drive up and clock it off, and when I hit the first road, the Quarry Drive area, it was 11 kilometers. So the application says 15. So it's probably 4 kilometers from that area to the west. So it's not directly right in that area. But again, it's within the municipal planning area, and residents have expressed concern that they don't want to see this on the side of the highway. And therefore, the committee is recommending not to approve.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion on the recommendation brought forward? I'm just thinking, should we not defer this one as well?
I don't agree with deferring, Mayor. I mean, it's a straightforward application, and the same with the other one. I mean, they're applications. The other one, there's more information to be gotten. This one, his application, he wants to use it for outdoor storage, and it's directly adjacent to the highway. And we've received a letter with a dozen or more names on it, plus another letter from another individual who expressed concern and opposed it. That was the process that was followed. We went through, it's a discretionary land use that was advertised. People were given an opportunity to express their concerns with it, and they did so. And based on that, I think council should take that into consideration and vote accordingly.
Okay, the recommendation is put forward. Are there any further comments? Okay, so the committee is recommending to deny. All those in favor of the recommendation? It's carried unanimous.
Thank you, Your Worship. 398 Kelland Drive, Mom's Place Limited. Development and Planning Committee recommends council deny an application for Mom's Place Limited for storage of heavy equipment due to the fact that approval of this application in this commercial zone is discretionary, and it is the opinion of the committee that the aesthetic look of the area would be compromised if this was approved.
It's been moved by Councillor Pomeroy, seconded by Councillor Dyson Edmonds. Are there any questions or concerns? I think, we can look back and certainly, that piece of property was a concern to council because in the past where a lot of residents, had, I know it was a fire, but still There was a lot of residents went to every councillor voicing a concern of, that it was in plain view. So there being town manager.
Apologies, Your Worship, but just, I guess to add for sake of record, it may also be noted that there were, on the advertising phase, 2 responses that did come back indicating concern about the application as well.
Yes, there were 2 responses, plus there was the letter with all the signatures.
No, it's a different one.
2 separate, so there were 4 responses altogether.
No, I'll clarify. On the previous recommendation,
Oh, okay.
there were, the previous
Are you
recommendation.
talking about the Trans-Labrador Highway now, or are you talking? Okay, all right.
On the
you
Callan
lost me there
Drive, the
for a
current
second.
motion that's on the table,
Okay.
there was feedback from 2 residents about,
Who were opposed?
yes.
Okay.
Okay, there being no further questions, the excuse me, the recommendation is to deny. All in favor? Carried, unanimous.
Okay, 18 Bird Street, home-based business, Megan Bennett. Development Planning Committee recommends council support and approve the application from Megan Bennett for a home-based business located at 18 Bird Street with the following conditions: that a fire, life, and safety inspection as per NFPA 101 be satisfactorily completed at the applicant's cost, that the applicant provide an application for change of use at the applicant's cost, and that it be compliant with all the town's development regulations with special reference to Section 54.
I'll second that.
Been moved by Councillor Palmer, seconded by Councillor Cran. Are there any discussion on the recommendation brought forward?
Just for the benefit of to home-based business to make soap products, candles, and that bath products, stuff like that. Okay.
Are there any further questions? Councillor Dyson Edmonds.
No questions, just I think this speaks volumes to the enforcement of getting a lot of the home-based business registered. We're seeing an influx of those. People are starting to abide by the regulations, and this is a very successful business. I have some of these products myself, and it's good to see that they are registered with the town.
Are there any further questions or comments? There being none, all in favor of the recommendation? Carried, unanimous.
Okay, Development Planning Enforcement Committee recommends council support and approve an application from Irvin D. Fontanilla for a home-based business located at 6 Bennett Drive with the following conditions: that a fire, life, and safety inspection as per the NFPA 101 be satisfactorily completed at the applicant's cost, that the applicant provide a application for change of use at the applicant's cost, and that they be in compliance with all the town's development regulations with special reference to Section 54.
Been moved by Councillor Pomeroy, seconded by Councillor Dyson Edmonds. Any discussion?
And this is just for basically retail, it's not a retail operation, but like supplying certain products to people in the community.
There being no further questions, all in favor of the recommendation? Carried, unanimous.
The Development and Planning Committee recommends council support and approve an application from Cindy Jock for a home-based business located at 45 Mitchell Street with the following conditions: that a fire and life safety inspection as per NFPA 101 be satisfactorily completed at the applicant's cost, that the applicant provide a application for change of use at the applicant's cost, and that it be in compliance with the town's development regulations with special reference to Section 54.
It's been moved by Councillor Pomeroy, seconded by Councillor Compton Hobbs. Are there any questions or comments on the recommendation brought forward?
And I believe this is for baked goods, correct? Yeah. Okay.
There being no further questions or comments, all in favor of the motion? Carried unanimous.
The Development and Planning Committee, Development, Planning, and Enforcement Committee recommends council support and approve an application from Mr. Ryan Howell for a home-based business located at 49 Spruce Avenue with the following conditions: that a fire, life, and safety inspection as per NFPA 101 be satisfactorily completed at the applicant's cost, that the applicant provide an application for change of use at the applicant's cost, and that it be compliant with all the town's development regulations with special reference to Section 54, and also that the applicant receives approval from governing provincial bodies or Service NL.
It's been moved by Councillor Pomeroy, seconded by Councillor Cran. Are there any discussion on the recommendation brought forward? There being none, all in favor of the recommendation? Carried unanimous.
Yeah, just a note there, Mayor, that's for tattoos, doing tattoos.
I look forward to seeing your one there, Deputy Mayor. Okay, we'll move on then to Economic Development and Public Engagement, and Councillor Dyson Edmonds. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Your Worship. The Economic Development and Public Engagement Committee met on Wednesday, September the 9th at 12 noon. Present was myself, Councillor Compton Hobbs, and Councillor Sean Cran, Town Manager Robert Andrews, Public Relations Manager Waylon Williams, Director of Community Development and Research Brenna Jahar, and the Executive Assistant Kathy Eddy. The meeting was called to order at 12:02. There were no errors or omissions from the minutes. The report presented from Mr. Williams stated his committee is working on a briefing note with respect to live streaming council meetings. We've had some issues with that in the past, and it's a work in progress. We are looking at the possibility of some updated systems within the next little while, and he is reaching out to one of the local companies to look at the supply of that service. There's been, of course, a lot of work with public relations with regards to PSAs that's ongoing, especially in the light of the pandemic. With regards to community development and research, Brenna has hit the ground running there. She's presented some briefing notes to the committee on things that areas that she wants to entertain and move forward on. We will be, we have some meetings actually set up, one as early as tomorrow with one individual as well on some development in the town. With regards to her position, it was dormant for quite a while. So it will take a bit of time for her to get familiar with the files, but she has been doing some great research and has been reaching out and making some connections in town. So I encourage all staff and council to offer her whatever support she requests. There wasn't a whole lot more discussion with regards to that, but like I said, we will be dealing with some meetings in the near future. We also have some talks with regards to meeting with the Labrador Grenfell Health as well, and some updates in light of that. With that, I ask that my report be accepted as read, and I have no recommendations.
It's been moved by Councillor Dyson Edmonds and seconded by Councillor Compton Hobbs. Are there any questions?
I'll just add to Councillor Dyson Edmonds' report that with our first meeting with Brenna, she seemed to be very motivated, and I was impressed with how much research she had actually done and what she planned on doing with the future of Happy Valley-Goose Bay. She got some good ideas, so I look forward to working with her.
Yes, and I've had 4 or 5 conversations with her, and the mayor appoints committees, and it was Waylon Williams stated his intentions that he did not want to sit on the appointee, being one of the two appointees on the Healthy Waters for the MOU. And I've had a good chat with some of our staff, and particularly with Dominic, and I'm pleased to say that I've asked Brianne if she would sit with Dominic to be the town representatives to finalize the MOU with Healthy Waters. There being no further questions, all in favor of the report is carried unanimous. Councillor Cran. Thank you. Okay. All right. Next we go to Finance and Administration, and Councillor Bakey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Finance Administration Policy Committee met on September 14, 2020, and was called to order at 4:37 p.m. Those in attendance by in person were myself as Chair, Deputy Mayor Bert Pomeroy, Councillor Lori Dyson Edmonds, Town Manager Robert Andrews, Director of HR Craig Wallace, and SAT Melissa Whalen, and Executive Assistant Kathy Eddy. Regrets, DFO Nadine McGauley. Committee reviewed the July minutes and noted there were no errors or omissions. Melissa Whalen, Supervisor of Assessment and Taxation, SAT, advised the committee that residents are making payment arrangements and most are adhering to their agreements. One property was slated to have the water shut off, but it was canceled as the water and sewer is connected to the adjacent property. Melissa also gave an accounts receivable update for the months of July and August. As well, to date for the year 2020, the town has received a total of 144 low-income relief applications for 2020. 54 applications for 100 discount, 40 applications for 75% discount, 35 applications for 50% discount, and 15 applications for 25% discount. Town Manager Robert Andrews gave the committee update notes from DFO Nadine McGauley during her absence. There was one property going through the process of tax sale, but it depended on payment arrangement by the family of this property. Town Manager asked the committee if we had any questions regarding departmental overtime and expense report. Labrador Friendship Center requested the FAPC to review their tax exemption, but it was determined that a decision was already made and did not meet the policy for tax exemption. Committee suggested that they reapply in January 2021 with new financial information. Ms. Heffler Elson is encouraged to apply for the COVID-19 relief that the town is offering. The town donated $400 for 2 teams of 4 to attend the Wayne Winters Memorial Golf Tournament. The Labrador Aboriginal Training Partnership was denied in tax exemption as per policy and was encouraged to apply for the COVID-19 business tax relief that the town is offering. Town will be providing a letter to Mr. Brenton explaining the snow clearing west of Heffler. DFO is currently preparing a report on legal fees for 2020 as requested by Councillor Dyson Edmonds. There is no change in the decision tax exemption for Mr. Jim Saunders. A letter will be sent by DFO explaining to him the committee is bound by the policy and cannot change their decision. Body camera policy to omit the wording in the policy to include the animal control officer. That would include specific perspectives for the respective positions. DFO provided an update after the FAPC meeting, providing a document outlining business tax adjustment completed due to COVID-19. So far, 18 applicants took advantage of this tax adjustment. Credits have been issued towards their 2020 taxes, and those who have already paid were issued refunds. Budget 2021 pre-budget public consultation scheduled for October 5th at 6:30 at the Town Hall. Residents group wishing to present as a delegate must register by October 1st. Please check the town's website for details. The next meeting for FAPC will be held on October 19, 2020 at 4:45 p.m. There being no further business, the meeting adjourned at 5:40 p.m. I now ask Council to accept this report for record keeping of the Town Council public meeting dated September 22nd, 2020.
Been moved by Councillor Baker, seconded by Councillor Dyson Edmonds. Are there any questions? Right.
Just a question, in terms of the, and I know the application came forward a couple of times from the Labrador Friendship Centre. Just wanted to ask the town clerk, we did reduce the mill rate for not-for-profits this year by more than 60%. Is that an accurate figure? From 19, was it 19 mills down to 8 mills. So that's a very significant reduction. That's a benefit to these not-for-profits in our community. And we are required by law to issue them tax statements, correct? And this came before council, and it was voted down, and council, I guess the committee was asked to reconsider, and the committee felt that the issue had been dealt with, and that providing, you know, in this year, we knew that there were a number of not-for-profits actually in the community that had requested tax relief, and that was part of the discussion, if I'm correct, last fall when we were preparing our budget to try and find a way to accommodate these not-for-profits in our community while still adhering to the requirements under Municipalities Act. And reducing from 19 mills down to 8, I think was a pretty good reduction in my opinion.
Are there any further questions or comments?
Jim Saunders, I know we've had applicants in the past that we did approve. It's discretion of the council. And I think, you know, if he's trying to support a senior in our community, I think we should look at it. And I don't agree with not looking at it and approving it. That's my opinion. I want to voice my concern that I don't agree with that decision. I don't sit on the finance committee, but I don't agree with it. I think we should look at any applicant that comes forward dealing with a senior that struggles with a low income, whether he owns that property or not. Obviously, he's still got to pay her money and whatever. So anyway, that's my opinion. And the other one is, I don't know if I missed what you said about Dave Breton, but I know he's submitted a letter a couple times and sent it to all of council. Again, I don't sit on finance, so I don't know what the discussion was. So can you just give me a little update on Dave Breton letter?
So I'm going to hand that over to either town manager or Nadine McCauley.
Yes, Councillor, I guess just in brief terms, what came from the Finance Administration and Policy Committee was we would respond to Mr. Brenton or reach out and discuss some of the concerns that he had, in particular with respect to snow clearing and the condition of the transition on the area of the road where he lives, but also to rotate back to the DPE committee. Planning is we would likely discuss his particular situation and just the general neighbourhood situation when we have the meeting with Glencorp about the development agreement.
Yeah.
I do recall seeing an email if we would consider a discount. I don't know where that went or what happened to the email, or was there a decision on that, or?
I guess the only decision could be made at a council meeting, but I would caution that providing discounts based on services is total in contravention of the Municipalities Act in terms of like the assessments. Like property taxes are based on the assessed value of the property. It is not tied to any services whatsoever, and we'd be going down a very dangerous road if we were to just try and link the two and say, you know, we'll reduce your property tax because your road is not up to par. Well, you want to line up at the town office? Because there's a lot of roads in this town that are in pretty bad shape, and people will be lining up and saying, well, my road is not as good as yours, I want my taxes reduced. I'm not opening that box. I mean, it's tied to the assessed value of the property. Now, we've asked that to have a discussion with the developer of that subdivision, Glen Corporation. That area has not been turned over yet to the town to because it's not developed up at that far end of that road. Hasn't been turned over to the town at this point. And so until that project development is, like, the developer's responsible for building the infrastructure in that area, not the town. And so we need to have that discussion with the developer, but I would very, very cautious, council, if you're trying to link services to property values and taxations, that's a very, very dangerous road to go down to, because we'll be inundated. Because there's a lot of people in this community that feel that they don't have as good a road as you do, or whatever other, the snow clearing is not as good in my area as it is in yours. You can't tie the two together. It certainly would create a major, major issue.
I don't think that was Dave Brenton's whole issue. He had a few points there, and that road is not even really completed, and is a different circumstance altogether. So I don't know what box we're going to be opening, because this is a new road. So right, but every situation is different. I don't think there's going to be a lineup at the town looking for discounts, because I think his is a little bit different than anybody else.
I think there's a couple of other houses up there too that don't have pavement to it.
Yeah, so I think
So-
we should look at the snow clearing. I don't think it should be brushed under the carpet, and I think Dave Brenton has been pretty persistent. He came forward 2 or 3 times, I think, to the finance committee, a letter. Well, he sent a letter to all the council, and us not being privy to what was discussed in that meeting. I mean, I don't support it. I would look at all the facts and discuss it as a council as a whole, in my opinion.
I don't know if town manager could add in here, I guess, from municipal services or the chair. Has this been discussed with the manager for Public Works in terms of Mr. Brown, in terms of what are we doing or what are we able to do? I mean, if his issue is with snow clearing, is there anything we could do to help that issue? You're talking you're talking not a very big area of town. Where's the snow being put to? Is it right in front of his driveway?
From recollection, there are a couple of concerns. So forgive me if I don't cover them all. There is a transition point where the asphalt ends and runs into the gravel, where that particular road is in the development stage. So it is partially complete. There is also a hydrant, which it appears right now to be in the roadway, but it's situated where that road will eventually bend and change direction. But I understand that there were also some concerns raised about I wouldn't say necessarily the quality of the snow clearing, but the snow clearing and the ability to access, but also that there was some rocky material because of the gravel road that was depositing into the driveway, and it made the snow clearing situation a little bit more difficult.
Yeah.
But conversation and some further conversation will be had with the engineer and the Public Works manager to see what we may be able to do to improve.
Well, I think that meeting with the developer is probably more, that needs to happen sooner rather than later. So this is only one issue. There's probably going to be multiple issues come up as we progress through that development.
I think it's only fair to the resident too, seeing he's been persistent and wanting answers, that perhaps that town management can meet with him too and go through, after you meet with the developer, and say, okay, this is what we've done, and
Yeah,
if there's anything we can do at all, I don't know.
If you recall, Councillor, a few years back, probably 2015 maybe, 2016, the street alongside of your place wasn't paved, and there were people building houses up there, and people at the time were, wondering about asphalt and whether the roads would be done, and it was done at that time, but I think it only covered that area where there was actually houses built. So,
There's a shortfall on that Moore Street or whatever it is.
yeah, it kind of ended at
Yeah.
the
So
last
there-
lot that was sold, right?
You do have some legitimate concerns, and at least if we could sit down with them and the developer to see what can be done, or if anything can be done.
That's what we should do, yeah. I think.
Are there any further questions? There being none, all in favor of the report? Carry unanimous. And you have recommendations.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Business Tax Adjustment COVID-19, the FAP Committee recommends council approve business tax adjustment due to COVID-19 to International Catering Limited in the amount of $955.14.
It's been moved by Councillor Bakey, seconded by Councillor Compton Hobbs. Are there any questions? I'm sorry, okay, Councillor Dyson Edmonds seconded the motion. Are there any questions? There being none, all in favor? Carried unanimous.
Business tax adjustment COVID-19, the FAP Committee recommends council approve business tax adjustment due to COVID-19 to Merle Norman Cosmetics in the amount of $215.79.
Moved by Councillor Bakey, seconded by Councillor Compton Hobbs. Are there any questions? There being none, all in favor? Carried unanimous.
BT adjustment COVID-19. The FAP Committee recommends council approve business tax adjustment due to COVID-19 to Convert Enterprise Limited in the amount of $1,272.45.
It's been moved by Councillor Bakey, seconded by Councillor Dyson Edmonds. Are there any questions? There being none, all in favor? Aye, carried unanimous.
BT adjustment COVID-19. The FAP Committee recommends council approve business tax adjustment due to COVID-19 to the Shed Pub in the amount of $1,140.48.
Moved by Councillor Baker, seconded by Councillor Compton Hobbs. Are there any questions?
Where's the Shed Pub to?
That's the legal operating name of the new owners of Tenders.
Okay. Are there any questions? There being none, all in favor of the recommendation, carry unanimous.
BT adjustment COVID-19. The FAP Committee recommends council approve business tax adjustment due to COVID-19 to all Canadian region in the amount of $973.80.
It's been moved by Councillor Bakey, seconded by Councillor Pomeroy. Are there any questions? There being none, all in favor? Aye. Carried unanimous.
PS 0009 amendment. The FAP Committee recommends that the body worn camera policy PS 0009, originally approved at the June 23, 2020 council meeting, be amended to include the animal control officer being permitted to wear a body worn camera while on shift.
Been moved by Councillor Bakey, seconded by Councillor Pomeroy. Are there any questions? What? Well, with the hands that went up to second that, I don't think I got a call for a vote. All in favor? Carry unanimous. Thank you, Councillor Bakey, and you have one for the approval of checks.
Yes, I would like to submit for approval of checks in the amount of $1,922,958.52.
I'll second that.
Been moved by Councillor Bakey, seconded by Councillor Compton Hobbs. Are there any questions?
Yeah.
Councillor Dyson Edmonds.
Check number 22447. $192,750 for Mass Development Corporation. I believe that's a reason.
Is that arena renovations,
Yes, that's the
Nadine?
contractor for the arena renovations.
Okay, are there any further questions? There being none, all in favor? Carried, unanimous. Down to the last part, Councillors Forum. Councillor Bicky, you want to start us off?
Pretty much, I hope everybody had a good summer, and we're starting into the new year, school year, hoping for a safe, COVID-free school year for all the kids in school, going back to school, and staff and teachers, and pretty much that's it.
Thank you. Councillor Compton Hobbs.
Yeah, it's nice to see some of the things getting back to the new normal, especially the children back in school and, you know, the minor hockey season starting and Snowflake Figure Skating Curling Club. Some physical activity has been a long 6 months, so it's nice to see some of them activities get started back up. And everybody's getting prepared in case we have a second wave, so hopefully we can beat that and follow the guidelines and everything, it fares out okay for us. Kellen Drive, I just want to say again that I would really like, I like the idea of sitting down with the Premier and MP and MHA Trimper to try to figure this Kellen Drive out with the shortfalls and the overage, and possibly looking at moving it back to another 15 meters if we can make that work. And I look forward to them discussions, and that's it for me.
Councillor Dyson, Edmonds.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just, I guess, to reiterate everybody seems to be pretty excited about getting back to school. I think the parents more so than the kids. It's great that soccer has started up, and we're looking forward to the hockey camp coming up the end of the month. We have some young hockey players coming in from some of the coastal communities to participate in that. So that's really great to see. Personally, my grandson is absolutely driving me insane waiting for hockey. He has let his hair grow since the last time he was on the ice, and I think it's about time to put it up in a ponytail right now, but he says he's not cutting it till at least when he gets back on the ice, but that's going to be happening really soon. The only other thing I want to point out, well, it's called hockey here, hey Sean, you know, it's all about it. The only other thing that I want to just ask about is I brought up a couple of times now, I've had some parents contact me about crosswalks on Kellen Drive for the students that are walking to school from that area and availing of the lunches over on Kellen Drive. And I've requested a few times to have some crosswalks put there because there's been a couple of close calls with some of the students on their way over to get their lunch and on their way back, and I think that needs to be done sooner rather than later. But that's it.
Okay, thank you. Randy, you want to respond, or are you?
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Councillor. Yes, I am looking into that. I have visited site with the superintendent, and I have got the crosswalk standards downloaded on my computer. I'm in the process now of assessing the situation as to the preferred way of putting in the crosswalk location to make sure that you're going from a safe zone to a safe zone. Make sure you have the adequate markings and checking the speed limits and so on. So it is being actively looked into, and hopefully this week I have something finalized with that.
Yeah, Councillor Bicky.
Can I just add that, could you also look at getting a crosswalk up by the, what's the hotel called? Labrador Inn Hotel? To, you know, the main drag between going on to Lorry Drive? Is there going to be a crosswalk there?
Thank you, Councillor. Yeah, yes, that is an issue, and I know that the the lighting, the street, not the street lighting, the traffic lighting, I don't think allows for pedestrian crossings in that particular area. So it's something that really needs to be addressed. And it is an intersection that will be investigated by our consultant with a proposal to upgrade that particular traffic lighting intersection, as well as coordinate that with the traffic issue at the Kellen Drive Hamilton River Road intersection, and coordinate those two intersections, as well as address the pedestrian crossings on both intersections.
As well as Skipper Joe,
And Skipper Joe's too, that whole area up in that area, so yes.
Councillor Cran.
I don't have a whole lot to say this evening. I'd just like to congratulate Sebastian Benjamin on the walk from, I think it was Church of Falls to Sheshashi, and he raised something like 75 grand for his grandson. I had a chance to meet with them, made my donation, and I met one-on-one with Sebastian, and absolutely marvelous what he did. So, and that's it from me.
Councillor Pomeroy.
Yeah, not a lot to say, really. I think a lot of people are relieved, I guess, in some ways, that the kids are going back to school. They need that in their lives. And if we keep doing what we've been doing all along, I think we're okay. But the trend across the country is not very encouraging right now. Actually, we're on a pretty quick upturn. I believe the figures today are pretty staggering as to what could transpire within the next month even. So hopefully we'll weather this one as we did, I guess, initially, and I think we all pulled together, and not only as a community, but I think our whole province pulled together, and we managed to get through the first wave, and hopefully the second wave won't hit, but if it does, hopefully we learned a lot, and we'll just have to batten down the hatches again, I guess, and get ourselves through it. Other than that, Your Worship, not much to really say at all, except that hopefully we can get a resolution and something figured out soon on the road work. This is important work that needs to be done in our community. Get the tender awarded and work on trying to make the best of what we have to work with, and hopefully we can satisfy as many people as we can. Other than that, I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, summer is over. I think we can send out the hats off to our staff for the way that they put in the crosswalks that the town is responsible for. Sand sweeping seemed to have gone a lot better this year. COVID-19, myself and the town manager and Whalen attended we by Zoom, we done the Urban Municipalities Conference, and I can tell you, listening to the municipalities talk about COVID-19, that seriously, that I don't think that we took a back step or a back seat to anybody. And when we told them some of the things that we went through and what we done, you know, they were pretty impressed. This summer, council was invited to meet with Diane Simmons from Memorial University, and they are going ahead with a campus here in Labrador, and they're gearing up for it, and it's going to be a godsend. And probably Deputy Mayor Pomeroy, under your committee, you might want to look at what might be available in land, because they are going to be looking to buy some land, and maybe we can propose some sites that's available to us. The road cuts, I think that's been done, which, like Mealy Mountain and these places, you know, it's going to be a godsend. The people up there, we're not asking for the road to be done. They just want these these cuts made and asphalt put back in. So that's going to be taken care of. On a personal note, September the 2nd was a big day for me. My mom was 103 years old. Myself and Councillor Dyson Edmonds was some of the people that was at the party. It had to be cut down because of the number of people that you could have, but I know Councillor Dyson Edmonds and my niece brought her out from in the room. She was in her little walker or chair, and she sat down and she said the grace and she talked and she done it all. So at 103, God love her, and I hope that you will see 104. With that being said, I'll call for, I'm sorry, yes.
I just wanted to note as well, seeing as you brought up Big Graham, I think it's pretty safe to say that she was the oldest person to show up in the parking lot on Friday's Take Back the Night to End Violence Against Women. So that was pretty special to see. I got a picture of her in the parking lot.
Anyway, I would ask that call for a motion to adjourn the meeting. Moved by Councillor Compton Hobbs, seconded by Councillor Dyson Edmonds. All in favor? Carried unanimous.